Goal situation here. Anna Dominique going up against a double team. Jeffrey Moore has access to the bucket. What we saw from that normal replay of that last bit of action was Juan Fernandez actually wanting to dish off the against Master Jaworski. We're crossing the twilight zone. That's an eternity of basketball ahead of us.
Welcome once again, ladies and gentlemen. This is an eternity of basketball. Another edition of our show will start episode 74 in just a bit. But we'd like to remind you, we are part of the Globally Ballin Network. Another show on the network is Who the Heck Are We? They have episode 40 with Josh Toralba, so catch them here on the Globally Ballin Network. And then there's Hang Time with Denise Densay in the world of volleyball, the most recent episode with Manila Santos Nang. Catch that episode as well on the Globally Ballin Network. Globally Ballin Network, of course, has a lot of original articles, audio, and video projects. Catch them on YouTube. Of course, we're there. Hang Time, Who the Heck Are We, and all of that. And our shows on AOB will all be, well, at least episodes 1 to 60 starting tomorrow, will be on the Globally Ballin YouTube channel exclusively. So you can't watch that on FB anymore. So please subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can catch us on the go on Spotify, anywhere, anytime. Listen to us on Spotify. And of course, this is the link that you need to get to all of that. Linktree/globallyballin. You need that. That's essential nowadays. But here we are. Let's get this show started on AOB episode 74. And we've had a lot of firsts here on An Eternity of Basketball. But now, this is quite a milestone para sa aming show dito sa AOB sapagkat it is International Women's Month. And before the month ends, we have with us our first lady guest in 74 episodes. Ngayon lang, meron na tayong lady as our guest. And she was a trailblazer, of course, in the world of basketball, the PBA in particular, because back then, she was the first lady team owner, the first lady team manager. She was sitting on the bench. She was very visible during the TV coverages. And of course, people were watching her every move, because, it was very rare to have someone, a lady on the sidelines during that time. We have with us the privilege, of course, of having Senator Nikki Coseteng with us sa araw na ito. Welcome to the show, ma'am. I'm Charlie Cuna, of course. You have Jay Mercado. Sid Ventura was with us, but he's missing right now, so he's going to try to reconnect. But we have to start this show already, ma'am. Thank you for accepting our invitation.
Hi, Charlie, Jay, and Sid. And good morning to all the viewers out there. Thank you for inviting me.
Well, this is going to be a great trip down memory lane, I'm sure, for everybody on this day. But obviously, we have to get right into it immediately kasi baka habang kwentuhan siguro ito, ma'am. Growing up, syempre, as your family, your father, your sibling was into sports and all of that. But how did you, when you were young, what were your first experiences as far as sports are concerned? What were you exposed to? Was it basketball right away? Was it karting? Was it what were your first sports memories?
If I go by chronology, I think I was exposed first to table tennis.
Okay.
And tennis before I was exposed to basketball. Oh, table tennis, and handball. Remember, it was the game of the firefighters, handball. Because first, my grandfather, Eduardo Coseteng, he played a lot of table tennis. I remember because we had a pavilion in our house in Balut, Tondo, Manila. And I'd watch them play table tennis. I was amazed at how fast that ball would go back and forth on the table. And then my father and my uncle, my father was Emerson Coseteng and my uncle Edison Coseteng, they played tennis. And we had a tennis court in our backyard. So I could see that very, very early in life, like a few years old, I was witness to that. And then I saw my uncle playing handball. And then maybe when I was a bit older, maybe like 8 years old or so, or 7 or more or less 7 or 8, Phyllis Pano Ceramics in Malinta, Polo, Bulacan. That was where my father would hold office. Phyllis Pano Ceramics. And there was a basketball league called BAL. It wasn't like Mika yet then. It was BAL. I think it was what, Businessman's Athletic League or something. I'm not sure, but I just remember they had BAL on their shirts, you know.
Mhm.
So that was games in the factory itself, with a basketball court in the factory, and was there. Eventually, my father got into karting with the Laurels in Tanawan, Batangas. So he was go-karting there. And my brother, Jody, was really, I'm very proud to say, is a celebrated racer.
That's right.
He's got more trophies, I think, than clothes. So, and yeah. And my mother played golf. My uncles played golf. My father played golf too. And my grandfather on my mother's side, Jose Marquez Lim, he played golf. And he lived across the street from the fourth hole of Wak Wak Golf in Wak Wak Golf Club. So my exposure was very broad and practically consistent until eventually I started watching well, not PBA, Mika. The Mika Games, I believe that was perhaps in 1967. And then today, my nephew, who's Jody's son, Eduardo Coseteng, named after my grandfather, he recently, I think he won, he placed at least.
Yes, that's right.
In the F6, I believe that's in the UK because he's studying there. So I still don't have the latest and the greatest of news, but I heard he placed in the F6, and he's like what? He's not even 18, I think. Yeah.
But as far as basketball though is concerned, of course, that's the focus of our show. No, so you mentioned that what's the BAL. That's practically your first exposure to
Yes,
that
that's right.
sport.
Right.
And what are your early memories of that? I mean, was it something that interested you really? Were you engrossed in watching these guys play?
Well, because my father owned the team. We were the Mariwasa-Hondas. And in some other leagues or in some other games, it was we were called the Akai Recorders because of Sigma Mariwasa. So we were distributing Akai tape recorders in those days. And then we were the Noritake porcelain makers because of
Right.
Mariwasa-Noritake dinnerware. And but basically it was really the Mariwasa-Hondas that really made a name for themselves. And I was a spectator then. But every game, win or lose, after the games, we would have dinner together with the team, the coaches. At that time, it was Lauro Mumar, who was our coach. Our first coach was Lauro Mumar. Yes. I remember Lauro the Fox Mumar.
Okay. But you would be mostly watching. You weren't involved yet with the affairs of the teams at that age. No, wala pa. You're just a fan.
Yes, I was just a spectator. And not until much later, 20 years later, maybe.
Did you have any favorite players already at the time?
Well, the very popular ones were the ones we got from Ismail Steele. I think that's where they came from, because Ismael and Iko had a game and Ismael lost, right? So they disbanded the team, and so 4 of their players came to us, and Narciso Bernardo, Joaquin Rojas, Boy Marquez, and Felix Flores. The 4 of them came to Mariwasa, I remember.
Right. And that led eventually to a championship. Now, Jay, do you have something to ask the senator?
Yeah. What was when was the transition from the BAL to the Mika? When did you join the Mika?
Must have been 1967.
67.
Because I mean, I'm just doing this by maybe putting relationships, in terms of time, etc. Because I was abroad all of 1966, practically 67. So when I came back, that was when I remember going to the game. So that must have been then. Billy Robinson was our first import, and Lloyd Moffett and Billy Robinson. They were our first imports. Yeah.
Would you recall the thought process behind the transfer or the move to join the Mika? Was it for advertising? Was it for because of the general interest of your father?
Actually, looking back, now that you asked, my father was in business to be in sports. I mean, he practically, sports was a big thing for him. Meetings would be put aside, whatever he was doing, he has to be there almost every time during practices, and that's every day. And he was there in every game, So that's, I mean, if you're doing that, then that's practically your whole life,
Yeah.
And in those days, different teams were owned by different people, complete individuals who were not in any way connected with each other. Meralco was not connected to Toyota, or
Eco.
Mariwasa was not connected to UTEX, or CFC, or
Yeah.
So each one was really, really fighting for its survival at that time. So every team owner was also practically the company team owner, or a very high executive. I remember San Miguel was represented by Nono Ibaceta. Remember?
Yeah.
He was yeah. And others. I recall Walter Uyang represented UTEX.
That's right.
And down the line. So each one was really on its own for its own survival.
But Mariwasa, your team, when it was in the Mika, it had a very high level of success. In fact, you did win the championship in 1973. Do you recall those days when you did win the championship? Were you there? Were you watching live?
Yes. I was watching almost all the games. All the games.
Wow.
Yes. And we had championships, and we had kulelat ships too.
Yes.
That's what sport is all about. It's not all the time championships. So we had good games and bad games. Some because of our own doing, and some not. So that is sports is. It is what it is.
Yeah, but that 73 championship was big because there were a lot of other teams more popular, maybe with more popular players, but Mariwasa was able to pull it off. Jay, you have questions about that team, I'm sure, the 1973 Mariwasa team.
That's right. Well, there was controversy that happened back in that finals. So you were up against Chris, if I'm not mistaken, and I think 6 or 7 Crystal players were reported to be involved in game fixing. What were the things that were happening back then? I mean, did you actually see that these players were not playing their best?
I cannot recall anymore exactly the details of the games. Let me bring you to another game that you might remember. We were playing Crispa.
Okay.
And in that particular game, we were up by 3, 7 seconds to go.
Okay.
It wasn't a championship game because there were several games. There were other games after that,
Yes.
And that time, you see, the PBA had a rule that if you were the cellar dwellers, you could import foreign players who were more than 6 or about 6 feet.
That's right.
6 feet 6. If you were the champion or the second placer like that, if you were ranking very high, then you could only get a 6'3". That's why Toyota only had Danny Coons, like that. I mean, it's shorter players. Yeah. So I recall that game. I believe, in fact, it wasn't Tommy Manoto coaching that time. It was Narciso Bernardo.
Yeah. Okay.
Who was coaching at that particular game. And so, 7 seconds to go, we were up by 3 and we lost the game.
Yes, I remember that. Yeah.
Remember that game? Oh boy. Yeah.
So,
it was. And so the instructions from the bench were very clear. You just let them shoot. Because 7 seconds, make them shoot 2 points and you're still up by 1. And how it's not gonna, matter anymore. So what happened was, I can't recall if it was Dalman or somebody else was just standing there because those were the instructions from the bench. And here comes Philip Cesar, driving in. And he ran into my player. And so he made a goal +1, plus a free shot. Because they didn't call it a charging foul. They called it a blocking foul.
That's right.
So what happened was they tied the score. They tied the score.
I think Cesar deliberately missed the free throw.
Yeah.
Cesar deliberately missed the free throw, and Chris was able to get the offensive rebound.
Basta, it tied the score. We went into overtime.
Okay, all right. So he actually
that
made
was-
the free throw.
I think so, yeah.
Okay.
Kasi, wala na.
And then you lost in overtime.
We lost overtime. But anyway, it doesn't matter. Philip Cesar is still my friend. Up to now.
How did you
All the years
react?
that
How did you react when that happened, ma'am? When
I was bad. Really bad. I mean, the next game I remember was Iko Tanduay. And they were both red. I was just seeing all red because one was in red and white and one was in white and red. And they were both lined up, in the walkway going to the dugout. One of them was Iko Tanduay, that's for sure. So I was waiting there. And our coach, I think, was Tito Eduque, and he's really a gentleman. I mean, Tito Eduque would not curse, he would not scream and yell and get angry at the boys, no matter what. So Tito Eduque was a real gentleman. And so they all went into the dugout, and I let them go into the dugout, and I waited. And I waited for the referee. Yeah. And even the media, they were all there. Except that they were so shocked because I just kind of like hit the guy. And so when all the cameras were me, and they all of a sudden got so shocked, they put down their camera. So there was no evidence, right?
Yeah.
Then, because then we had a big PBA meeting, and reforms had to be done. I think the referee was sacked. The technical committee had so many shuffles and reshuffles and so many things going on at that time. I was really, it was really bad.
Nagkagulo, Nagkagulo after that. They shook that up. No, but let's go back in time a bit. Let's rewind a little again. No, so there was success in the Mika for Mariwasa. The championship in '73, of course, was the highlight. But just a couple of years later, all of a sudden, your dad and a bunch of other guys decided to form the PBA. Were you privy to what happened there? Nakwento ba ng daddy mo sa'yo why they were gonna open this new league and all of that?
Most of what I know and remember about that period are stories, not exactly in the meetings, etc. These are just stories when we were in the office, stories when you're eating out, stories when friends were around at home, because my dad would always have dinners and lunches, etc. At home, there was always somebody there was always people there. And so that was where I would get the stories from. One of the reasons why I believe this thing happened was because the professional teams, well, the commercial, let's call them commercial yet, because there was no professional yet at that time. So the commercial teams were really saddled and had a difficult time because the BAP, Basketball Association of the Philippines, headed by Lito Puyat, I think, that time.
Yes.
You remember?
Yes.
Well, they would always get players from us. They had to go to the leagues in different parts of the world. They would play in different conferences, and they would get players from us. So by the time it was the time for the Mika to start the season, all our players are baldado. They've been playing against people who were 30% their size, So they would all be either tired or injured or whatever. So then they would say something like, well, you should be able to play for your country. You have to have the pride of the Filipino, the spirit of the Filipino, and we bring pride to our country, etc., all that. So my father says, that's well and good. I'm all for that. That was good. Why don't we have a separate league for the professionals and the younger ones, those who are going to play for God and country, and separate those who are playing because they have families to support, and that is their profession. It's like their doctors, like their nurses, their architects, their accountants, engineers, whatever. And so these people chose basketball as their profession.
Right.
And so some were not even in favor of that. There were others who did not have that kind of thinking.
Mhm.
Because my dad was saying that if you do not put up the professional basketball league, then you put a ceiling on everyone. You know, where will Mon Fernandez go, or Alvin Patrimonio, or these guys? You know, where will they go? There's no,
Mhm.
and the younger college players, you know, Samboy Lim and all these young people, where are they gonna go? You're gonna have people like Jaworski, etc. You know, um, staying in their positions in those teams, and you can only have 12 players in a team.
Mhm.
And there are thousands of other high school kids, hundreds of thousands of other grade school kids who one day want to be a Mon Fernandez, who one day want to be a Robert Jaworski, but they cannot because there's like a ceiling on top of them, and they cannot move up because those guys are not moving anywhere else
Mhm.
either. So I think that that kind of rationale really made my father, push for the formulation or the establishment of the Philippine Basketball Association. And now we can see that young people from college, they join the D League and they can be drafted.
That's right.
You know, and the guys playing professional can go to other professional leagues. It's not only the PBA. There are many other leagues looking for players.
That's right.
It's just that maybe media does not support as much as they support the PBA.
Mhm.
Mhm.
But actually, there are many basketball players out there that have made basketball their profession. And so that will open now the floodgates for coaches, for trainers, even for ball boys, even for
Mhm.
anybody, to get in. It's not just for the players, but it's for everybody that wants to be involved in basketball.
That's
And
right.
so now you see that, what is it, how many years? 40 years now in the PBA?
46 already. We're about to enter the
Season
46th
46, yeah.
46 years,
Yeah.
and you can see that it's still there.
Mhm.
I mean, of course, now it's really more limited because basically Manny Pangilinan and Ramon Ang have most of the teams, right?
Mhm.
It's no longer
Half of
like
them.
before, like every team is a completely different entity. Yeah.
Mhm.
So
That's
that
right.
I think has benefited basketball and sports because now there's
Mhm.
something for young people to look forward to, whereas before there was none.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
So,
Sid,
so yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
go Sid.
Yeah, sorry I got cut off, and I don't know if this has been asked, Senator. But those early years in the PBA, it was really Crispa and Toyota just alternating championships. 75, 76, 77. What was that like for the other teams? Like Mariwasa, who were always left out of the big dance.
Let's put it this way: if you join a league, it is up to you to compete
Mhm.
where there's a level playing field. You know, at the time when Leo Prieto was the commissioner, I felt that everything was on the level and everybody was given the proper environment, to succeed.
Mhm.
So we were hampered by many things, which were not maybe the same as Crispa and Toyota.
Mhm.
We had financial constraints. We had perhaps a Japanese partner, Honda, who may
Mhm.
not have believed that we had to pour in so much resources, into the team.
Mhm.
You remember, if you can just up to now you can still figure it out. You have employees, for example, who are making minimum wage, and basketball players were making 20 times, 30 times, 50 times that. you know
Mhm.
so it's very difficult for a company sometimes to justify that. My
Mhm.
father had a way of doing this because a lot of the support that was given to the basketball team was his own support, his own resource that he was using for the basketball team. Honda was not supporting the entire load of the basketball team to begin with. Secondly, the players in those days, for most, I say most teams, were not asking for houses and lots. They were not asking for cars. I mean, some of them were asking for what? Air conditioners for their rooms. They were not asking for condominiums. In those days, our players were sleeping beside our canteen in Mariwasa. You know, nobody was living like in exclusive subdivisions. It was different then. You know, it was so my dad looked at it as it's all in good fun. It's the same way. The same way I look at it. I have a small school, Diliman Preparatory School.
Right.
I have a coach who's, I think, an excellent coach, Renzi Bahar, for basketball. He was also in the PBA.
Yeah.
And we have an excellent coach for taekwondo, which is Namdagdaga. And he has produced practically all the Philippine champions, perhaps may have come from him in terms of taekwondo, right? And up to today, from Japoy Lizardo's time up to today, Diliman Preparatory School has been winning gold medals even during the pandemic. Pumsay Online. Can you imagine Pumsay Online?
Oh my, yeah, that's right.
You know. So, and we're a small school. We're not like UST or FEU, you know, or not even like Centro Escolar. But when we joined the UCBL, we were champions. I think twice or three times we were champions. I mean, we're not as big as Olivares College, a very powerful team, Olivares, you know. But we made it to the championship and made it as champion. When we participated, a small ragtag squad, you know, not so ragtag anymore, because they looked at us as a ragtag squad. But when we joined the tournament in Malaysia, well, we beat Indonesia, Malaysia, you know, all these other Singapore countries. And so we were champions. I think this is our third championship already in the UITM in Malaysia. So in other words, the coach has a lot to do with this. How he motivates, how he handles the players, how he chooses the players. Because you can only have 12. You know, you can't have a whole pool, even no matter how much money you have, right? So in our case, I guess we just felt competition is competition. You lose some, you win some, and it depends on your resources from then on. And the right attitudes, the right frame of mind, how management treats the players. We don't pay our players, our college team. They don't get like allowances, etc., and all the benefits and the perks. But they can produce championships. So to me, that's more than what I can ask for. Sometimes my goal is just to be in the Final Four. You know, but
Yeah.
it
You
really
have to set
depends.
iba-ibang ano, you know, but obviously because Crispa and Toyota, as Sid said, they were dominating the league early on. But on the third year of the PBA, naka-breakthrough yung team ninyo, no? 1977 all Filipino. Of course, there was that handicapping rule. You had Billy Robinson on your team, but you were able to make the finals against Crispa in 1977. I'm sure your dad was really happy about that.
Yeah, Crispa, Toyota, in previous to that, Meralco, you know, these were formidable teams. They had fabulous players, and you know, sadly that some had already passed on, but I still see the others. You know, I see Atoy Ko, and one time we were with Yo-Yo Martinez during the anniversary celebration. You know, things like that, and also I think we had a lot of rookies. Because my father would get rookies like from Cebu or from wherever else like that. From Southwestern, you know, University of Visayas, San Carlos. He would go scouting for these players. That's another thing. The scouting process is another factor, which I think we in Diliman Preparatory School today in this context have Renzi Bahar and Napdagdagan doing the scouting. You know, and I give them a free hand. I don't say ayoko niyan or I sa tingin ko palpak yan or whatever. I have no thing in. I give them a free hand in choosing because they're the ones who have to be able to spot the potential And the attitude is very important. But I said, when I take the players in, as far as I'm concerned, it's 30% the skill. The 70% attitude, which will determine if the 30% of the skill will go to 90% or not. Because if their attitude is really bad, then
Forget
even
it.
if they have 70% skill, that will go down easily.
That's right. That's right. Grabe,
Okay,
no?
for
So,
swimming, like for swimming, we had Susan Papa that was doing all the scouting, that was doing all the training program, etc. I would support, but to medal, and maybe I think a lot of parents do that. They're magaling pa sa coach yung ibang parents, yung ibang magulang inaaway pa yung coach.
so, pero nung umabot po kayo sa finals 1977, you were still not involved in team management or whatever. You were still just a spectator as well, no?
My father had a stroke. Perhaps that was late 70s, maybe 79 or 80, like that.
Okay.
I just did not have the heart. I did not have the heart to disband the team. He had to have somewhere to go every day in the afternoons for the practices, during the practices. He had the games to go to. And even if it was really, really like drawing blood out of soul, as far as I was concerned, I was just focused and determined and do whatever I could to keep the team going while my father was alive. Unfortunately, he passed away in 1983 at the age of, he was 51, 52 years old at that time. Very young, yes. So when he passed, I thought it was time to go. It was, I'll quit what I can. That was the time. But had he not passed on, I think it would have still continued.
Jay?
Ma'am, curious lang. In 1981, you changed the brand of your team to Finance Incorporated. Kanino kumpanya po yun? Sa inyo po yun? Sa father niyo po? Or sa family?
My father. My father.
Okay, and who triggered that decision to make it Finance Incorporated coming from Mariwasa or Honda?
Well, I think they because we tried to rotate or use different names of different companies that my father had. So it was, the Mariwasa-Hondas, Akai Recorders, Noritake Porcelain Makers, the financiers, it became like that. So it was,
kayo nga po yata yung naging parang catalyst nung ganong decision making ng mga team owners, no, na nagpapalit-palit po ng mga brand names sila sa PBA. No, it's very common now actually if you look at it, whether it's San Miguel or other teams, no, talagang nagpapalit-palit po sila. Ma'am, question lang po. Noong 1978-79, after your second place finish in the 1977 All-Filipino, medyo hindi po maganda yung naging performance ng team, no? Despite the fact that you may handicapping system, you had imports like Paul Marigny, Jeff Randall, Jim Zit, ganyan. What were the frustrations that the team have at that time? Kulang po ba kayo na superstar, na lead player? Parang ganun po ba?
That could be one of the reasons. Another reason could have been maybe the gelling was difficult because it's not just skill. It's also how they can relate, to each other, the different players. Because there are 12 of you, and there are only 5 in the court at one time. So that kind of like a round robin of all these players, sometimes these 5 can work well together. When you take one out and put another one in, then it's going to be it's not always like that. And the time element of playing together may not have been long enough. Sometimes you get a new player and after 6 months, sabak na siya in the games, etc. So it cannot be like that. Another factor, maybe this is what I think. As time went on, the turnover was faster because with the PBA now, the new guys can come in from outside, and I think it is also because the new ones are not also used to playing with the new ones of the other teams. That can be a factor. In other words, if I've been playing against people like Elias Tolentino or Gini Mariano, or Lucindo, like that, alam ko na yan eh. I mean to say, kilala ko na siya. Alam ko na kung paano siya, where his weaknesses are, di ba?
That's right.
You
That's
know
right.
already. So
That's right.
if you're a rookie or if you're a young guy and you're up against other guys and maybe some other young guys, then you gotta figure them out. I mean to say, this is the point that I've always been trying to make, and people sometimes look at me funny, but I still will make it today. When they say, yung mga basketball player, walang utak yan eh. Kaya nag-basketball player. Kasi kung matalino yan, naging doktor yan o naging lawyer. Di ba? That's the attitude. Doktor yan o that's the way people think. Okay? So I've always been going up against that. And I said, if you are an engineer, you have all the time to draw, to make your corrections, submit, ulit-ulit, atras abante. If you're a lawyer, you can have so many people proofreading what you're doing. You can rewrite and write 100 times until your deadline. If you're a basketball player, you have to decide, split second, are you going to dribble 5 times or 6 times? On the right or on the left? Are you going to turn your back this way or that way? Are there people behind you, in front of you, going like this, before you can shoot? And somebody yelling at you at the back and from the bench, from the bleachers, I mean, what? And you can still make it?
Yeah.
That's fast thinking. If you don't have a brain, saan ka pupulutin? You will never make it even to anywhere close to that bench, So I think people have to rethink. I'll tell you, at the time when we started exporting domestic helpers, I said, if we had an excellent grassroots development program and we started exporting athletes, then if you're making $30 billion from remittances, you're going to make $300 billion if you're exporting athletes.
Yeah.
I mean to say, from people like Japoy Lizardo, I mentioned him earlier, but he was starting in Diliman Preparatory School, grade 2, Taekwondo, under Nakdagdagan already. So, I mean, has taken, I think, his master's degree, he's graduated from De La Salle, and he's still in Taekwondo, But can you imagine if there were a few thousands of them going to different countries playing Taekwondo? I mean, it's the same thing, a lot of our athletes are not even here. They're in other countries. Lydia De Vega was not in the country for a long time, right? So there's something sick that's going on. Something that could be the goose that lays the golden egg.
Right.
It's nothing.
Yeah, and unfortunately, the development has been very slow. Of course, the Gintong Alay tried that in the 80s, and it was quite successful. But then, of course, there was a change of administration, and yeah.
But it's still an attitude. It's still an attitude. I mean to say, some of these programs are successful at the time that they're successful, but there's the sustainability cannot be done because. I mean, we don't think of ourselves as champions. We don't think of ourselves as worth it. I mean, there's poverty everywhere in the world. There's poverty everywhere in the world. But do you see maybe domestic helpers from China? Maybe not. I mean, they're exporting other things. The Chinese are exporting people to Silicon Valley. I mean, that's a different story altogether, If it's science and technology, then it's science and technology. If it's sports, it's sports. But many countries in the Middle East were looking for shooters, maybe archers. It's not just basketball. Basketball is just one. Taekwondo is just 2. Swimming is 3. But there are how many 40 other sports? And yet, even the basic, which is track and field, maybe I think that's basic because the equipment is not as expensive, and you can run anywhere. It's in Africa. The Olympians from Africa started bare feet.
Right.
So sports is something that has been shortchanged, and sadly, it's very, very sad. I think that's really a sad commentary. And swimming, we have been victims of swimming. I recall. we had somebody like Mark Joseph who was heading the swimming NSA.
Yes.
That would not allow other people to participate. And I don't care about what their logic is. The point is, it's really an exclusivity. It's really lack of inclusiveness. You want to say, okay, poverty alleviation. What? By throwing out cup of noodles, and that's the way you alleviate poverty, or spread around, truckloads of sardines. That's not the way to do it. But
That's right.
if they have their own talent, I mean, as I said, athletes are not athletes because they're dumb, but they have other intelligences that PhDs, not all PhDs might have.
Correct.
You know,
Yeah, these are societal changes that are needed and a whole new attitude that you need.
and a thing is the UP Maroons, for example. How do you enter the University of the Philippines? You need to pass an exam. But if you're going to select your basketball players and your whatever athletes from only those who will pass exams, you're really gonna end up cellar dweller.
As we very well know, no?
From Diliman Preparatory School, we sent our swimmers to UP without passing the UPCAT. You don't have to take the UPCAT. That's a different intelligence altogether. You make an UPCAT for sports and let's see, pag hindi kayo nag-champion. Di ba? Some of our Taekwondo gyms, in fact, mostly, I think, they all went to University of the Philippines. And they were winning gold medals for the University of the Philippines. So you have to recognize that not everybody's the same. Not everybody's made of the same stuff.
Right.
And athletes are exactly that. They have their own kind of genius.
But ma'am, when did you break that barrier? When did you formally assume the position of team manager / team owner? Was it 79 now when your father was stricken with this stroke? And
Yeah, siguro around that time, 79, 80, like that.
and what was your thought process there? I mean, you knew it was we'll say it was a male-dominated league. Everybody, you wouldn't see a lady on the sideline. They'd always be watching most of the time. All of a sudden, you had to step in there. Obviously, you had the unique personality to be the one to do that. But what was going through your mind when you'd be there? You knew all eyes were on you. The camera was on you. They're watching every move you make. How did that go for you at the start?
Actually, it didn't matter. Because in my family, I wasn't treated as a girl. No, I was just treated as me. I'm me. And so that I thought that made a difference. I wasn't like a girl daughter, a girl granddaughter. No. I had to make a lot of decisions on my own. I had to assert myself to get what I wanted. And so, and if I failed, I also had to stand up on my own. I wasn't about to get babied because I'm a girl. No. You sink or swim on your own. And I thought that was the best kind of training I had. And I was happy and lucky, fortunate. I appreciate the fact that, they threw me into the lion's den. Not just for basketball. After 7th grade, I was in Noel College. After 7th grade, my parents sent me to England. And I was a boarder. I was a boarder in a all-girls convent school. And it was tough. I was lonely. All my friends were here. I could only write letters once a week, air letters. You remember, there was no email, there was no cell phone then. I could only go out of campus maybe once a month, to Christmas vacation and spring break. That was it. But the rest of the time, there was no parents. There were no parents. There were no brothers and sisters, friends, barkada. People you can call by phone anytime. No, you left your own devices. And I thought that was excellent training, because in this world, you'll never know when the people you depend on move on to another world. And if you can't take that, it's tough. It's going to be tough for you. So I always tell even my students in Diliman Prep, I liken it to weightlifting. If you are so used and trained to lift 100 pounds of weight. Somebody asks you to carry a sack of rice, 25 pounds, 25 kilos. It's nothing. You can easily lift that. You're used to carry 100 pounds. Or you're used to carry 50 pounds. 10 pounds is nothing. But if you're used to only carrying 5 pounds, somebody asks you to lift 10 pounds, oh God, you're all stressed out. I mean, today you hear third graders complain about being stressed out.
Correct.
Third graders being stressed out. Oh, what stress is this? I mean, so that means they were not really designed or trained or brought up to be on their own. And sadly, I think most kids nowadays really just have it too much too soon.
Mm-hmm.
And whether it's sports or in life, if you have too much too soon, it may not be for the better.
Mm-hmm. Sid, you have a question for Ma'am Nikki?
No, I just wanted to ask lang, Senator, are you disappointed that, not more females followed your footsteps in the PBA? Up to now, it's still the PBA board is represented by all males. And I think the only other female team owner that I can remember was Sheila Lina for
That's
Shapinas. Shapinas around 10
right.
years ago. But if you look at the landscape right now, even on the coaching staff, you very rarely see more females. When you broke that barrier, what were your expectations? Were you hoping that more females would be appointed to positions in the PBA?
Perhaps at that time, I wasn't looking at it that way. At that time, I was looking at it from the point of view of more reforms for Philippine basketball and Philippine sports.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't that I was a woman that really, to me, mattered. It meant that my voice or what I can contribute, hopefully could be replicated or could be implemented at that time.
Mm-hmm.
Because I felt that sports really needed reforms as early as that time. And until I got into swimming, then I really figured, oh, well, see, it really has to change. Because if it doesn't change, then it in effect excludes practically the entire Philippine population. And, especially at that time, the other sports were not really given too much attention. And I was in fact asking if that time companies could really do more for other sports.
Mm-hmm.
Because as I said, basketball can only take 12 players. At the maximum 15, 3 reserve,
Mm-hmm.
right? If you have 10 teams, that's only 150 people.
Mm-hmm.
150 people in a population maybe at that time of 50 million or 60, 70 million at that time. What is 50 people in basketball? Nothing. And yet there are so many other ways by which sports participation and training can be encouraged. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe that time it wasn't so much because I'm a woman, but more because sports has to change. And sadly, it has changed very little over the years. Let's put it this way. Can you imagine a 1967 car and a 2021 car? Look at how different they look. And look at the way sports and sports development is being run.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of it is PR work. A lot of it is just maybe talk, feel good kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
You're in the limelight. There's a lot of adulation, etc. There's maybe a lot of mileage, if you wanna look at it in that way. But as far as the effect of the development of sports, another person maybe you should try and talk to is Mr. Hong Soon Chong. Hong Soon Chong is the head of the Philippine Taekwondo Association.
That's right, Mr. Hong. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
I remember my son was, 7 or 6 years old, Julian, who eventually became an equestrian, but he started with Taekwondo. And Mr. Hong was then just, well, not really starting, but he had already been training people from the armed forces, maybe the police, and certain schools. Look at how broadly Taekwondo has spread. Considering that it's only the Smart Taekwondo Championships, it's not really, all companies don't really have Taekwondo teams, But look at how well and how spread out in the grassroots Taekwondo has been over the years. It's got over the years, you see. In other words, there's something to it. Mr. Holmes very disciplined. I've even headed some of his Taekwondo delegations overseas. Parents can't hang around their kids when they're in competition overseas. They don't even stay in the same hotel. They don't eat together. The parents come and watch the competitions. And after that, okay, they can go out. But when the competitions are going on and before the competitions, that's full concentration. That's discipline.
Mhm.
And if you try and do that for other sports, you'll have a whole, gang of parents on your back. Why are you doing this to my children? Well, you don't have to do that to your children. Don't make them athletes.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Don't make them athletes. If they were something else, they won't have to go through this. I mean, kids in swimming, for example, on their own, those under Susan Papa, and maybe those who are following Susan Papa's formula, they cannot keep eating ice cream.
Mhm.
Even that.
Mhm.
Or keep
Mhm.
eating cakes. Cannot. Now, if you feel that this is cruelty to kids, then don't make them athletes. It's very simple. But for those who want to gain ground, for those who want to go further ahead, everybody talks about wanting to be in the Olympics, but you still want to eat a lot of ice cream and cake. That's not compatible as far as I'm concerned.
That's
Right,
right.
right.
When they go on a competition, they want to go to the airport in shorts.
Mhm.
In shorts and the jackets of their choice. I mean, what's this? That will never happen to the Taekwondo team. I remember one time, talking about discipline, one time there was supposed to be a photo session, and I told Coach Nak Dagdagan to have the Diliman Prep School students ready for photo session in their Taekwondo uniform. The top lady, Taekwondo Jin, was not in uniform. What did they do? They put her in the back and covered her with other Taekwondo Jins in uniform. So I said, if you're not in uniform, you're not going to, I don't know if it was Azerbaijan or if it was Korea or I don't know where they were going. I said, you're not going anywhere. But she's the national belt. So what? So what? The instructions are, you come in your uniform.
Mhm. Mhm.
So I said, and then says, yeah, but the photographer cannot have another session. That's not my problem. We had a complete photo session. So what happened was there was an Ateneo Lasal game and I was going to the Araneta Coliseum. I said, I'm giving you a last chance. I'm going to be there at 5:05 in front of the green gate. You all line up there in your Taekwondo uniform, have the photographer ready. I'm going to go there, take a picture, and then you can go to the competition. Otherwise, you're staying. You're not going. Nobody's going anywhere to any competition.
Right.
So they were all there in the uniform. I said, see?
Yeah. Well, sadly, a lot of people will nowadays. A lot of people will complain if those are the
It's
values you
okay.
have. Yeah, but
No
that's life. Right?
problem.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
don't mind. You can complain. You can pull your student or pull your children out of the team. It's all right.
yeah. Hmm.
But if they want to be in the team, then we have rules. These rules
Yes.
have to be followed. I have lost many championships for Diliman Prep School because I said, I have only two rules. One, you follow what your coach tells you to do. One. Two, you go back to rule number one.
Yeah, that's great. And we're getting an insight into the management style of Senator Nikki
Yeah.
Cosenteng.
Yes,
That's probably.
that's what brings champions. That's what
Uh-huh.
brings champions. You want your swimming championship, your taekwondo championship, and your basketball championship. That's it. One time, Renzi, you can ask Renzi. we were at the championship game against a very strong, powerful school. And the top two or three best shooters was told to come to school at 1 o'clock because the bus will leave at 1:45. The top players came to school at 1:30 because the bus will leave at 1:45. But as the instruction of the coach was 1 o'clock. So when I got there, I said, where's everybody? Tapos wala pa. Ano ba sinabi ng coach? 1 o'clock. Anong oras na? 1:20. 1:20, wala pa. Kasi 1:30 pa sila dumating. Sabi ko, you're not playing. Sabi ni Renzi, ma'am, pwede ba sa susunod na natin sila suspend? Itong game championship. I said, ano ba yung rules? Meron bang sinabing pag-championship, walang suspension? So, Bako, the parents cried, the other teammates cried, this and that. I'm sorry. From that day, which was 7, 8 years ago, maybe more, to this day, nobody comes 1 minute after what coach says. If the
Everybody's
coach
on
says,
time, huh?
if your coach says 1 o'clock, they're there 5 minutes or more before 1.
Right.
That's it. All it takes is one incident. And they keep repeating the incident to the new students anyway. So it's okay.
Yeah, dapat nakikinig yung mga bata. Ang nakikinig ngayon, pakinggan nyo po yung mga ganyan and follow those rules.
Usapan. Kasi atleta kayo. Kung
Yes.
ayaw nyo maging atleta kahit anong oras, pwede kayo manood ng TV hanggang alas 3 ng umaga, gising kayo. I have no question. I don't quarrel.
There's a certain level of discipline that you have to have. But I just wanted to mention, at this juncture, we have some of the former PBA players are watching this episode. Bernie Fabiosa was watching earlier. Jimmy Manansala, sabi niya, hi ma'am. Si Ricky Relosa, si Ray Lazaro, they're watching all of them. And then sabi nga, may nagbanggit nga, one of the players said, si Ma'am Nikki, yan ang crush ng lahat ng mga player dati. So, well, alam naman natin yun. That's one aspect of it. But I have one question before we take a short break. Do you remember when you finally took the reins, and formally entered as team manager, do you remember the reaction of the players when you suddenly were there all the time in the middle of the huddle, in the practices, and you were giving instructions, maybe pep talks before? Anong reaction? What do you remember from all of that?
Wala, sabi nila, yes, ma'am. Sabi nila, yes, ma'am. They never made me, or I never experienced feeling odd or weird.
Mhm.
They treated me like, I guess, like any manager. I thought that they recognized authority. It didn't matter what gender. But authority always has to be recognized.
Mhm.
I mean, basically it's that. And I think they also know that if we lose a game, I feel the pain and the hurt as much as they do.
Mhm.
You know, it's easy to, what do they call it? It's like, there is a term for it, I just can't recall it right now, but when you say, alam mo, dapat yan ang ginawa mo eh. Alam mo, kung pinasa mo yung bola, panalo tayo eh. Kung binaks out mo yung si ganyan, naku, hindi makakalusot yan. Alam mo, problema sa'yo, ganito. You know, that's not even gonna help. When they eventually watched the game after. After. They asked me if I want to watch the game. I said, I watched that game. I know exactly what happened, to whom, at what point, and when, and how. And what the other guy of the other team did when this thing happened. I don't have to watch the game. They have to watch the game. And let the coach deal with it with them. I never said, ikaw dapat pinasa mo yung bola, kung hindi mo sinuwapang yan, tapos panalo tayo. You know, like that. The most that I say, the really most, they will tell you that I really say it now. The most I say, ilan yung free shots missed? We lost by 4. 17 free shots missed. Ano yan? Diba?
Yeah.
Walang gumagwardya sa'yo.
Yep.
Gumagwardya sa'yo. Walang nagbablock sa'yo. Walang nagdidistract sa'yo. Hindi ka tinutulak o hinihila. Nandun ka lang, sarili mo lang, hindi mo ma-shoot yung bola.
That's right, no? And it still happens today, free throws ng mga Pinoy. My gosh.
statistics na tinitingnan ko. Sabi ko,
Mm.
statistics natin 17. Ilan ang points na talo natin? 3. Isipin mo yan. Kung
Sayang,
pumasok
sayang.
yung mga Asia, kaya ng paso na yan, di ba?
That's right. Lots of great stories already so far, no? But we're halfway through the show. Lots of stories coming in right now. We'd like to remind everybody that An Eternity of Basketball is part of the Globally Ballin Network. Catch the new show, Who the Heck Are We? With Josh Toralba. That's already on the Globally Ballin Network. And then we also have Hang Time with Denise Dinsay, with Manila Santos Nang in their most recent episode. That's episode 27 for that volleyball show. The Globally Ballin Network. Check everything out there. Lahat ng social media ng Globally Ballin, check nyo yan. Nandyan kasama ang AOB, Hang Time, Who the Heck Are We, and more. And then you have, of course, our YouTube channel. Subscribe to our YouTube channel because episodes 1 to 60 of AOB will only be on that YouTube channel starting tomorrow, March 28th. So you must subscribe there. Take us on the go. Listen to us on Spotify. And of course, the most important thing is the link. Linktree/GloballyBallin. That'll lead you to all of that. Nandito po tayo, episode 74 of An Eternity of Basketball with Senator Nikki Coseteng. We're talking about her stint as the first woman team manager, team owner in the PBA. Ang ganda ng mga pangyayari, no? Lots of lessons as well, no? As far as sports are concerned. Walang pang-basketball. But, okay, I'll ask the first question of this second segment. The Gallery Dominique, eventually it became the name of the team. Obviously, that's you. You are Dominique. Why did you do that? Why did Gallery Dominique become the name? How did you expect to promote Gallery Dominique through a basketball team?
As I mentioned earlier, it was not so much to promote Gallery Dominique because the market of Gallery Dominique is not a mass market.
Yeah.
It's not a consumer item.
Yes.
If you get 1 client or 2 clients a month,
Okay na.
okay ka na, di ba? So it's not promotion. I had to have a name of a team.
Mhm.
Number 1. Number 2, that time, because there was that financial crisis, end of the 70s and early 80s, you know, and Honda decided they did not want to sponsor or shoulder the expenses of the team anymore.
Mhm.
So I would say, I guess my father or my uncle, Eddie Marquez Lim, was my uncle. He was also in basketball, but he was more of a golfer and Mr. Football. In fact, the Sambeda alumni awarded him as like a Mr. Football, kind of an award in one of their homecomings. But so maybe they decided that after discussing and negotiating, and Honda said they didn't anymore want to participate. I said, why am I going to use the Honda name? After everything that we've done for Honda in the country, they're gonna drop you like a hot potato, you know?
Okay.
So I said, I can just use Gallery Dominique, so what?
Mhm.
I mean, if I didn't have Gallery Dominique, it would have been the Nikki Coseteng Dragons or something, you know? whatever it is. My goal was just to keep the team alive while my father had suffered a stroke. It was just to keep the team alive until the time he could take it back and he could run it again. Unfortunately, he passed.
Yeah.
He died on July 7th of 1983. So that was it. So I was able to talk to Joe Subiri eventually. So it became Gallery Dominique Artista Magazine.
Yeah.
Right.
Joe Subiri had an Artista magazine at that time.
Tito Joe pala yun. Okay. Sige.
Yes. So I asked him, you know, since you're into this magazine publishing business, maybe it might do you good because it is a product that everybody, you know, enjoys at the magazine. So he said, okay. So at that time, I made it Artista, Gallery Dominique Artista Magazine. You know, parang hahanapan ko talaga ng paraan kahit papano. Basta wag lang magdidisband yung team habang buhay pa yung tatay ko. Ganun lang yun. Basically, I mean, you know, it could have been any other name. It was just that the basketball had to keep going.
Galing na your commitment to the PBA was there talaga, you know, your family's commitment to
Yeah.
the PBA.
Because also, it's midway. We had already played so many games. How do you quit just right then and there?
Yeah.
How do you just quit? And what about the value of the other player, other teams? There are other teams. Of course, it's expense on my part. I lost a lot of money. I mean, to say the least, you know what it costs to run a team. You know what it costs to run a basketball team. So it did cost me money. But money you can earn. Money you can earn. But how are they going to look at me or my father, for that matter, who brought me up in that sense? How are they going to look at me if I just abandon it? Bahala na kayo. Eh, yung problema nyo na yung because they play against us eh. In the end, ilan na lang matitirang team, di ba?
Yeah.
Hindi naman tama yun. Let's say you're 6 wins, 1 loss. You're 5 wins, 2 losses. And all of a sudden, there's only 5 teams left. Paano yan?
Galing. That's great to hear that. I mean, the way that you know you all watched out for each other. The league watched out for each other. The teams.
Yeah, because there's responsibility. When we joined the league, to make the league complete. You know, the death of one person, the attack of stroke of one person. Why should the league suffer because of that? There's a sense of responsibility there, even at your expense.
Yeah, Sid.
But ma'am, even 83 kasi the economy was really hit hard, no? And actually,
Very
84, a lot of teams pulled out also from the PBA, naging 6 teams na lang, ano? Did that also factor into your decision making to discontinue the team in 84? You know what?
I wanted to do this as properly as possible, and so that. But the point I wanted to make at that time was, you make an exit, somebody else is going to come in. I think it was Alaska. Was it Alaska that came in?
A few years later pa. 86. They came in 86. So there was a time, 84, 85, the PBA only had 6 teams.
But at least it was still going. You know, it was still okay.
Yeah.
Go. And so I felt that it wasn't really a disruption. But if I left in the middle of the league, in the middle of the conferences, in the middle of the
Yes.
then bad news, yeah. I wouldn't even have the face to come and talk to you today. I did that.
But in 83, speaking of teams helping each other out, in 83, the other teams actually did help your team out, right? I mean, there was that situation when in the middle of the conference, I think the imports were refusing to play already. I mean, that was talked about. There's a story about that. Do you remember that, ma'am?
I don't really know what happened anymore. At that time, I was very, very disturbed about my father, and then eventually his loss, which took me a while to process. Seriously. So it didn't matter. I as far as I was concerned, I tried to ask Joe Subiri to come in. Kung may kulang man, ganyan, bahala na siya. Anyway, the name Artista Magazine was there. We didn't even have, even the mascots were just my 2 kids. My 2 kids were, little kids. Sila na lang yung mascot. Wala na kaming, stars that would come maybe like that. But I don't even remember anymore. Basta, unless Joe brought in some of the actors, to come in. But as far as I was concerned, it was really gulong-gulo na. My mind was very magulo already. But it just pulled through, I guess. Somehow, if you decide that you're going to make it, you'll make it.
Right. Well, we're taking this nice trip down memory lane, so we have some photos that we prepared. We can go through them there. There's the first photo. There's Senator Nikki on the sidelines together with the coach at the time, no? Of your team. Yeah, si Diego. He was your player first, and then he became the coach of the team also. After that. So ano kayong pinag-usapan niyo rito, ma'am?
I thought Miego also played for San Miguel, didn't he?
Yes, he did.
He did.
Yeah.
I remember. I think. Yeah, I remember. He played for San Miguel.
Yes, ma'am.
Even Martirez played for us and also played for San Miguel.
Yes, ma'am.
He won a championship with San Miguel.
Yes.
Yeah.
Martirez. Well, I had short hair then. I guess.
Yeah. So what do you think, ma'am? What do you think you're talking about here with Coach Miego?
Oh, I don't know. Gosh, I don't even know what's the picture.
Parang you're telling him, ba't ganun yung laro ng mga boys natin? Because he's laughing and then you're like, you're not laughing, you're not having any of it.
Those candid shots are really a gem.
Yeah, there were a lot of those, especially when you were there on the sidelines, no?
Oh yeah,
Sige, let's-
I can imagine. But you know, in those days, the people, the audience, they would throw like coins and they would hurt. Sometimes they would hit you, you know, coins yung barya.
Oh, yung malaki pa yung 1 peso nung panahon na yun eh.
Masakit yun, ah.
What's the next photo, please? There you are.
Oh yeah, that's
1982.
already too there.
Tito Eduque, the man in white.
Yeah.
Always in white. No, that time I was also in a white suit.
No,
Oh, and you're the
person on left.
one standing.
Yeah.
He's just relaxed watching the game.
He's a very cool, calm, and collected person. Really.
And
Hey, that's my
classy naman
daughter.
yan.
That's my daughter behind me.
Oh, this little, okay. The one in black?
The little girl with the V-neck black jersey.
Okay.
Yeah, that's her.
there.
Yeah,
How old was she? Batang-bata pa. That's 3 or maybe 4 or 5 years old, no?
maybe in eight. That was in the 80s. No, she was
82,
83. 83.
82, 83.
Oh,
Yeah, 83.
83 na yan.
The one
7 years
seated on the
old.
left? Is that an import? The one seated on the left?
That's Diego.
The one pinaka-left, oh, that's Dodi Miego. Then si Tito Eduque yung katabi.
Yeah.
No,
okay.
the far left. That's Diego.
Yeah.
Pwede siya. He's ano na.
Yeah, they were sharing the no, they shared the coaching there. Tito Eduque, si Cholo Martin and Dodi Miego.
Cholo, yes. I remember Cholo Martin.
Ma'am, question, yung logo nyo na GD, is that really the Gallery Dominique logo or ginawa nyo specifically for the PBA?
Oh no, that's been like that since the gallery started.
There you go. Okay.
Been like that since the gallery started.
Galing, ah. Okay, next, let's go to the next one. This
Oh.
is some sort of awarding or something, and you seem you're giving it. I know those are the children of Pepito Castro.
Yes. Okay.
But I'm not sure what the occasion was or what the award was about. But
There were several awards. I mean,
that's
at the back.
the son and the daughter of Pepito Castro, who used to work with the PBA as well.
I remember.
We're guessing this is like the 1983 opening ceremonies, if I'm not mistaken.
Maybe.
Could be because I was maybe wearing the same dress.
Yeah. No, tsaka it says there on the side, 83 yan, 83 talaga. Tsaka may mga, there's chairs, so malamang doon nakaupo yung mga team owners. The usual, no?
Oh, I remember vintage. I see the logo vintage. That's Bobong
How
Velez.
it used to be. But for some reason, I don't know if this is the year, Pepito. Yeah, sila Bobong na yan. Kasi 82 sila nag-start.
Yeah, 80. Yeah, you can see a number 83 dun sa desk as yan, sa table.
Tarpaulin.
That's 83 season siguro opener.
Another former player is watching us, si JB Yango.
Oh,
He's
hi.
watching the show right now. He's also been on the show dito. Yeah, so look at the crowd, no? I want to point out to the people who are watching, look at that crowd. Opening day, punong-puno. And then,
Games, I think, were well supported. Even the regular. I remember there was a gay community. They were really nice. They were really fun. They had all the banners and all that under the goal.
they're still around. They're
Oh,
still
really?
around now. Yeah, they're there with
Yeah.
the banners and they cheer and there's
Probably a
some-
different set na, no? Pero
it's different
the
set siguro sila, but
same group na.
Really
Same,
made a
ano.
difference. They really made, livened up,
I agree that they're there talaga and yeah, they make it fun. They make it fun for everybody.
Yeah.
Who do you remember as the face of your franchise? Who were the players that defined your team?
At the start, at the start, no, because they stayed with us for a long time. Narciso Bernardo, of course, with very high respect for him. And his wife Rosa was always there in the games,
Yeah.
And Jesse Suliano and Boy Marquez and Joaquin Rojas. He was really
Jake
fast.
Jake
That guy was really something else. He was really like a mouse running around, you know.
Yeah.
And he wasn't tall. He wasn't even tall, but he managed to
He's
get
like
all
5'8".
the
Yeah.
skills, you know.
Mhm.
Yeah, Jake Ross. And eventually we had somebody, the people like Mariano Figuracion. Remember him?
Yeah.
Yes.
Mariana
That-
Figueroa.
One time, another Crispa player transferred to us, Jimmy Javier, but he
Jimmy
passed
Javier.
away.
Danny
Yes,
Florencio.
Danny Florencio.
Yeah.
We had
Even Estoy Estrada went to you for the
Yeah.
last year.
Yeah. And Rudy
Estrada,
Soriano.
yeah. Estoy Estrada.
Oh,
Estoy Estrada. And
Yeah.
wait, another guy. Well, there was Bebeng Martinez. There was Dalman.
Yeah.
Oh.
Only that one. Yeah.
There
Oliveros
was
Talman.
Ponky Alolor. Remember
si
him?
Ponky. Of course, yeah, he's been on the show. He's been our guest also here already.
Oh yeah? What is he
Based in
doing?
He's based in California.
He's in California. Yeah.
Okay, that's good. That's good.
A lot of the old players are in the States. Iba-iba. They're all over.
Yeah.
So we've been able to
Good,
reach them.
that's
Si
good.
Ponky. Ponky
Yeah,
had a
June
great
Papa.
season for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Rookie
June
year.
Papa also.
Who?
June Papa, ma'am.
Ah yes,
June
June
Papa.
Papa was yes, that's right.
Mhm.
That's
Yeah, your
the
first 2
brother
years.
of Susan Papa. Susan
That's right.
Papa's brother.
Oh,
Susan
iba?
Papa.
Okay.
Okay.
Adriano
Good.
Papa Jr. yan eh. Adriano
That's right.
Papa.
Yeah.
Right. Mhm.
Joy Jonicio rin pala, no? Played for...
Yeah, si Joy
Right.
Junicio came on board also somewhere along the way. How about the imports, ma'am? Do you remember them? Anybody stand out to
There's
you?
a guy by the name of Balani, Woodrow Balani.
Woodrow
si Woodrow
Ballin.
That's right. Yeah.
There's a lot of memorable names. How about Luke Dakula?
Mhm.
Yes, he's still around. He's still last year he still called me, I think, you know.
Yeah. He's coaching, I think, ma'am.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mhm.
He's Dakula. Yeah, Dakula.
Pero he
Dator.
changed the name, di ba? Naging
Parang
Dator.
Dracula. Huh?
Oh, naging Dator. He became Luke Dator later on. Nag-change of name
Dator?
yata.
Yes,
Yeah.
ma'am.
Really? I never
Yeah,
knew
I think
that.
he legally changed his name, if that's what
That's right.
I recall correctly.
Everyone's
His
calling
mother's-
Dracula.
His mother's name is Tortor, and that's the reason why he decided to combine the Kula and Tortor to and made it Dator.
Yeah.
His middle name.
Yeah,
That's
his middle name was
His middle name is
Tortor.
Tortor. Uh-huh.
I see.
Tapos Dakula. So Dator na lang yung ganun, naging family name niya.
Jimmy Taguines din pala, no? Also
Yeah,
played-
Taguines also went. Taguines also. So Taguines and Javier played together, the two Jimmys.
Yes.
How about the imports, ma'am? I saw them. Of course, you mentioned Billy Robinson kanina, but do you remember any of the other
Joy
imports?
Moffat, and there was Mark Jamieson.
Mark
Do you
James.
remember Mark Jamieson?
Maybe in the 70s, ma'am.
Cisco Oliver.
Cisco, yes.
Cisco Oliver, yeah.
I think there's some photos that have them. Can you let's look at the next
Yeah.
photo, Aaron. What's the next photo? This is you in one of the huddles. Tony Torrente is there.
Yeah, Tony Torrente. He was good. That guy's
Yeah,
good.
he was really good.
Really fast.
Saka maraming ang Bisaya on the team. There was a lot of
Yeah, he's point guard. That's why I mentioned earlier my father and even by Momar, Lauro Momar, he would go to Cebu and recruit from there. That's why these guys are from either San Carlos or University of Visayas or
Southwestern.
what's the name of that university? I just mentioned it earlier.
Southwestern.
Southwestern.
Southwestern. That's right.
Okay, so it's
Yeah,
one of those
that's-
intense.
That's Jimmy Javier out there sitting down next to me, I think. And isn't that Junicio standing beside
Probably, yes.
Junicio standing beside Miego?
Yeah, mukha. It looks like Joy.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah,
ma'am.
looks like
Yes,
that.
ma'am. Yeah.
Oh,
Number
see,
9.
that means I still can remember.
Wow, ang galing nga, ma'am eh.
Oh.
What's next, Aaron? Let's go to the next one. Yan na naman.
Oh, yeah.
Yan na naman kayo tatlo, no? Miego and Eduque.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's Ma'am Nikki. Of course, we're showing all these photos. So the fans are reminiscing as well. And of course, trying to remember all the...
No, I just remember din pala one of the better imports also played for James Robinson.
James Robinson. That's right.
He
That's
was a
right.
really good player.
Mhm.
I remember him.
Ma'am, question. Tito Eduque used to coach for Mariwasa in 1977 when you went to the finals against Crispa. No? In 1983, you decided to bring in Eduque once more to handle the team. Was that your decision, ma'am, or personal preference niyo po ba siya, or was it a collective decision by management?
Actually, at that time, management, well, I personally felt a great sense of respect for Coach Tito Eduque.
Mhm.
And I think at that time, parang alang-alang sa Mariwasa, like that. I think Tito accepted to coach for us pro bono.
Wow.
Oh, okay.
I think so.
Wow.
We just got a little allowance. It wasn't like a real
Yeah.
honest to goodness coach. You know what I mean? We just,
Yeah,
But I think he agreed he offered to do pro bono.
Wow, that's bago yan. That's new info.
That's why, every time they say, many schools, in fact, even our school, a lot of our officers maybe, or maybe even stockholders, who knows, they would say na gastos lang yan eh. Hindi. To me, it's not gastos lang. There are students who really thrive because of sports, and they do very well in school because they're in sports. So it's not because of money. Kasi kung pera lang ang pinag-uusapan, wala na sa amin si Renzi Bahar at sinapdagdagan. Kung pera ang pinag-uusapan, matagal nang wala sa amin yan. Matagal na. But they are there. So it means that they feel a sense of loyalty. They feel a sense of respect. They like maybe the way they can do things in school, the way they can run and manage and train, And so there's that. And you have to give them the opportunity to grow as well,
Right.
And I think that the school spirit can easily be developed further because you have a team. There's something to rally behind, So it's not always money. Some of the highest funded teams will not perform as expected.
That's true. We see that every day.
Pera pinag-uusapan dyan. It's not just money.
And Coach Napdakdagan is watching, by the way. So
Coach Renzi also is watching.
and another one,
you should get them to talk on your show because they
Jen
have the
Valdez,
experience, especially how to do it in schools. It's different, Running a professional team is different from running a school team.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Iba yung dynamics niya.
Agree.
But completely different.
What's next
And,
on the slideshow? Okay.
Oh, that's with Mariano Yenko.
Yeah.
Yes.
After Leo Prieto passed.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
The one with the necktie.
Yes.
Commissioner
I see Jimmy Javier on the left, and then Tito
Yes.
Eduque. And who's the fellow on the right? Do you recall? Because he's in a lot of the pictures that you sent to me.
His name is Sunny Hill. He was our Liaison guy,
Okay.
He was
He's the
my
only one
dad's
who connected.
like my dad's companion whenever they have to be with the team or go somewhere like that. Sunny Hill was just always there.
Is he still around, Sunny Hill?
I haven't seen him in a long while.
No, because I was just thinking you might be the only surviving personality from this photo.
Yes, pretty much.
Jimmy Javier, Tito Eduque, Mariano Yenko, they've all left us already.
I don't know about Sunny. I really have not heard much about him. Yeah.
So, do you recall what this meeting was about?
And where this is?
Well, looked like a press conference.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's a press conference. Maybe it was when we already formed Gallery Dominique, maybe. Because before that it was Leo Prieto.
That's right.
So maybe at this time it was already because it's already me. If it was before, when my dad was still active, I would never sit in this form, in this manner, in a basketball meeting. I was purely spectator.
In your bio, if we Google your name and it comes out on Wikipedia or whatever, it says that in 1983 you were the vice president of the PBA.
Yes.
Is that right? You were the VP. The president of the PBA at the time was Tommy Manotok, right?
I can't. Yeah, I think so.
I think it was Tommy, and then
Was it Tommy?
Oh, kasi commissioner until 83, the commissioner was Leo Prieto, if I'm not mistaken, di ba?
That's right.
Then pumasok na si Yenko. Colonel Yenko came in after. But I'm just curious. What were your functions as VP of the PBA, man?
Well, not much really, because at that time we would meet not too often, and basically it was like at the beginning of the year, like that. And the commissioner really was the one calling most of the shots. And at the time when
It should be.
when Leo was the commissioner, Commissioner Prieto was commissioner. There weren't that many. I don't recall that many controversies. Anyway. And when Colonel Yanko came in, I was really very busy already because Gallery Dominique was just forming, and then we were busy trying to get the act together. It was really tough. Then eventually my father passed on, so it wasn't much to do with the PBA operations in itself.
What was
And
your
there was June Bernardino, by the way. So he was the one doing most of the work. It wasn't really us.
That's right.
He would call us. He would call me and ask if I thought this was okay or that was okay, like that. But not anymore to be doing the day-to-day matters.
Yeah, I think June Bernardino was executive secretary of the PBA at that time. Ma'am, what's your relationship like with Colonel Yenko and Leo Prieto? How close were you with them?
With whom?
With Colonel Yenko and Leo Prieto, ma'am.
Leo Prieto, because of the relationship he had with my father, I was much closer with Commissioner Prieto. Every time, for example, he would go hunting, like for snipes, he would always send me adobo snipes.
Wow.
Okay.
And up to now, like his daughter, Mary Lou, and I, we still travel together. Well, not this last year, but the last time we traveled together was we went to Antarctica in, I think, February or January of 2000. Well, I'll get my dates wrong. 19.
Okay.
So then you're probably the first person I've ever spoken to who's gone to Antarctica.
Exactly.
I'm sorry.
You're probably the first person I've spoken to who's gone to Antarctica.
Oh yeah, it was fantastic.
I've never spoken to anybody else. That's great. Galing. Here, this is a party. This is a party with some players. Joy Dionisio, I think, is behind you, no?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Steve Watson on the right.
I'm curious. Why is Steve Watson with you?
That's Dalman.
Which was
Don't mind
which one?
Dalman.
The
At
one
the
in the striped shirt?
At the back, no. The striped shirt is Joy Dionisio.
Yeah, Joy Dionisio, right. Yeah. Then Dalman is the taller one.
That's Steve Watson, yeah, on the right, sitting down.
What was he doing?
But Steve never played for you.
Yeah,
Why was Steve Watson there?
I guess this is one of the dinners that we had. I mean, we invited anybody. Everybody was there.
Okay.
Jesse
Siguro si Steve yan. Si Steve nagpapakute lang yan. Si Steve.
Suliano. Yeah.
Yeah, Jesse
Suliano.
Yeah,
And who's the other?
I'm sorry, ma'am.
No. That's not Javier. That's maybe Balani. Was it?
Yeah, Balani. That's Balani. That's Woodrow Balani. That's right.
Yeah,
That's
Balani. Hey, remember the fashion before they opened their shirts until down here?
Yes, I know, because last week we had a show tribute to Joe Cantada. Joe Cantada's shirts were also like that.
Yeah, but you see, look at how fashion changes, huh? This time, everybody was wearing tight fitting. After that, everybody was wearing 4 sizes bigger.
Yeah, baggy. Naging baggy naman.
Up to the knees. The t-shirts were down to the knees. Look at them before.
Was this your house, ma'am?
Yes, in Wakwak.
Okay. So it's a team party. Okay, next photo. Nakakatawa yung mga... Yeah, look at this. You're involved in that discussion, ma'am.
That's Tony Torrente, and that is Martinez. Is that Martinez? No.
Bebeng Martinez, yeah.
Is it? No.
Siya yan, no? That's him.
No.
Hindi ba siya?
Wait.
No. Vicente.
Okay. Red.
Red Vicente. Yeah.
Enteng Vicente.
That's Vicente. Yeah. Somehow I can say.
You're giving instructions, ma'am. Ano kaya dito?
I don't know. Maybe he has to position himself better. The centers. Because at this time, I think I'm just trying to recall. At this time, Vicente's a very, very tall player,
Mm-hmm.
and it's hard to navigate tall players. It's hard. You're taller than everybody else. You're thinner. You're lankier. You're not as tall, and you're not the Filipino size. You're not the Filipino build. So it's not easy to be like pivoting around and doing whatever. You're too tall. You're very tall. Maybe even you feel awkward yourself.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Diba? The configuration. It wasn't. There were not that many tall players. Mon Fernandez was one, but Mon Fernandez came much later, maybe, or
Yeah.
maybe at that time.
So,
Ma'am,
maybe,
curious
ano,
lang.
sige,
Ma'am,
Jay.
curious lang. Sinong paboritong player na kung pwede nyo pagalitan, papagalitan ninyo? Yung ganong klase.
Well, I mean, I treated everybody the same.
Okay.
Really.
Or you were frustrated with yung ganon. Every time when he makes a boo-boo inside the court, etc., yung napapakamot na lang po kayo, yung mga ganyan. Were there situations like that?
Yeah, syempre, lahat. Everyone would have its own share of ano ba? Bakit gano'n? Ano ba? But I'll tell you what. As I mentioned earlier, you have to have eyes in front at 45 degrees, 90 degrees, 180 degrees. You have to have 6 pairs of eyes as a basketball player. Diba? Hindi mo nga alam yung bola ba padadaanin mo sa ilalim ng tuhod mo, ano? Anong gagawin mo? How do you dribble to get rid of this other character who's trying to steal the ball from you? Are you gonna dribble in front of you and you're gonna step on the ball or the ball will hit your foot? I mean, you have to calculate all of that, and then you're getting distracted by everybody else. I wouldn't be able to play ball. I wouldn't be able to.
Yeah, I wish they could have mic'd up like what they do now in some games. So they can put a mic on the manager or on the coach, and we can hear what they're saying. I would have loved to know what Ma'am Nikki is telling these guys here. Okay, let's go to the next.
I have a different question lang. Ma'am, which player from other teams would you have wanted to play for your team? Were there any players that you wanted to target?
I would have 24 players if I were allowed.
Pero sino? Who would be number one on your target list? Who would you have wanted to get?
Let's see. At that time, I'm not talking today. At that time.
Yeah.
Well, let me see. Jimmy Mariano was a good player, I thought. Jaworski was good, of course. Freddie Webb was still around. I mean, he still has a sports show doing now. It's really good. A guy by the name of Canent. Remember him?
Rene Canent, yeah. He's been our guest already.
He's been our guest.
Martinez was good. Yeah, Martinez was good. Who else? From another team, let's say, from Toyota, right? Remember Ricky Cleophas? There were those guys from Ateneo, Cleophas, Palu,
Joy Cleophas, yeah.
And another one.
Francis Arnaiz.
Arnaiz. Francis Arnaiz. I would have wanted him on my team.
Yeah,
many others. Many others. They were really good guys too. Lucindo was good. Remember?
Grabe, no? Alam na alam ni Ma'am Nikki yung mga players.
Oo nga, kabisado eh.
What's next on the...
Billy.
Si Haba.
Billy Abrantes.
Yeah.
Here you are with Coach Tito. Who's the lady, ma'am, with you in this?
She was my assistant manager. Her name is Sara Dionisio. She's the daughter of the PB Dionisio shooting.
Okay. Sila
She's Sara
Jetro.
Dionisio, but she's now in, I think, Virginia or Washington, somewhere there. She's married already.
Okay. So this, I guess, this is just for
She's
Lisa.
married
To Jethro.
She was married to one of the Dionisio boys. That's why she's Sara Dionisio.
Okay.
But I guess it's separated. She's in the States now. Yeah. As Tito. I think this was in Pangasinan, maybe where we played.
I was going to ask. This looks like it's out of town somewhere.
Yeah, we had out of town games in Pangasinan. We had one in Tacloban. I think Tacloban, if
And
not Tacloban.
sumasama po kayo talaga, no? You really go. You would go
Yeah.
almost all the time. You hardly miss the game, no?
No, hardly. I was always there.
Hands-on talaga.
You know, I have a question. I hate to distinguish because I always think it doesn't matter if you're male or female or whatever. But I'm asking this question: do you think there's any advantage to be a lady running a team as opposed to a man? Are there certain qualities or certain things that you pay attention to more than a guy would have probably?
Well, I think one of the things that I insisted on was that after the game, they cannot run around the Coliseum in slippers or shorts or like that, sloppy.
Yeah.
Before and after the game, they have to look,
Professional.
decent, because a lot of kids watching see them and identify with them. So they have to dress properly. That's one thing. Dress code. That's one thing.
Yeah. Uh-huh. But how did you do your team bondings? Did you have like team buildings already? Dinners? You'd have parang bull session?
Dinners, outings, things like this one. Yeah.
And you would normally host them at your home, ma'am?
Every now and then, yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Alright.
Next photo,
Yeah.
please. How many more pa ba? What's next? Yan. Oh, this is what nice. You were telling me about. We were talking about this yesterday. Baby Dalupan, who's the fellow sitting beside him?
June Bernardino.
June Bernardino, exactly. I wasn't able to identify until you told me. That's the future commissioner. Imagine naging commissioner yan eventually.
Yes, that's June Bernardino. Funny, he looks like somebody like Tom Jones.
Exactly.
The leather
The leather
jacket.
My
jacket.
dad also had sideburns.
Yeah.
I don't know
Of course, the
this
great,
one. Baby
Baby
Dalupan.
Dalupan.
Baby Dalupan, of course, is considered.
Crispa. That was a Crispa Mariwasa game. I'm not sure that was Gali. Yeah, maybe it's Gali Dominique game. That was in Dagupan.
Okay.
So kasama rin si Coach Baby D kasi at the time, no?
Yeah.
Well, what do you remember about Coach Baby Dalupan, ma'am? I mean, because he was a very colorful character.
Oh yeah, really colorful character. I remember he get really angry
Oh,
at the voice. It's really at the temper, right? But he was a nice guy.
Nanginginig niya sa sideline eh. Galit na galit sa referee.
Yeah. See, we were all friends outside of the court. I mean, outside of the game. Of course, I would always want to win against them, and they would always want to win against us. But outside, we were pretty much okay.
Yeah, but galing that photo of the late June Bernardino. No, he has a trophy named after him, no, the All Filipino Championship, di ba? It's a June Bernardino trophy. Sid, no, tama?
I think so.
Actually, we do better in all Filipino conferences. I thought we do better in all Filipino conferences rather than in conferences where there would be imports, because the imports that we get, my father would go to the East Coast most of the time and get from the CBA or that. But you see, we wouldn't really get the very, very good players because maybe there's a budgetary constraint.
Right.
So it's not, height is not always might,
Yeah.
A lot of it is also discarte. A lot of it is a lot of discarte talaga.
Yeah. Magaling naman ang Pinoy sa diskarte.
So in the all Filipino, we do a little better than a lot better than the normal league conferences.
What's next on the slideshow? Here's Leo Prieto.
That's the opening.
And
That's the
Yenko.
opening. Yeah. Gallery
They're the
Dominique na yan.
kids. They're your mascots.
Yeah. That's my son Julian and my daughter Kimi.
And how young were they at this time, ma'am?
Well, if that's in 1980,
83, ma'am.
is that 83?
Opening of
82 or 83.
86.
Gallery Dominique.
Julian must have been like, no, that's not 83.
83, ma'am. Kasi si Tito Eduque was your coach in 83.
Oh, yeah.
Tapos si Dodi Miego is 82.
Yeah. Tito's back, so that's 83.
Okay. So Julian must have been 11,
Mm-hmm.
and and Kimmy was 6.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay, At buti
Nice.
pumapayag sila that you dress them up in those outfits and then they come out in front of the crowd. No?
The
Diba?
Sunday
Like,
dance. They go with us even in out of town games. I mean, out of town activities. They'll be there.
Oh,
so they were involved. They knew what was going on. They knew what mommy was busy with.
Mm-hmm.
And Julian eventually became an athlete. He became an equestrian.
That's right.
Right.
That's right. Uh-huh.
And Kimmy was playing golf at one time.
And I'd like to thank Julian, by the way, that's how we got in touch with you through my brother. He's a friend of my brother, so they were able to talk, and then that's how I got in touch with you.
Okay. Well, right now he's all head over heels over the San Francisco Warriors, right?
Golden State, yeah.
The Golden
Golden
State.
State.
Golden State Warriors, yeah.
Yeah.
That's he wears the Golden State cap, the Golden State T-shirt, the Golden State pajamas, the Golden State.
You always had this you always had this good fashion sense, ma'am. No, people are actually commenting now on the Facebook feed. Na, always you dressed really well during the games, and then you were, because everybody was always looking out to what's Ma'am Nikki gonna wear for this game. Parang you were like Princess Diana or something like that. They look at what you're wearing every.
Not in that league, that's for sure. I just always feel that when you dress up properly, it's like you show respect to others.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
You feel that this is worth your time. The persons or the people that see you, they're worth your time. The effort that you put into, if you don't just wear a t-shirt and that's it. But
That's important. Yeah.
it always because when I talk to somebody and he or she is better dressed, I always feel that the person shows respect.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you don't go to a wedding in pajamas, right?
Mm-hmm.
So why don't you, right? So it's like that. And well, at that time I wasn't in politics, so it was not a political thing.
Yeah.
Right.
It wasn't anything pre-planned, but it was just a matter of showing respect. Especially Leo would always be in his barong,
That's right. And then Colonel Yenko in his suit.
You hardly see him casual. So because he's already like that, that kind of like sets the stage, sets the benchmark. And so you just kind of reciprocate.
Mm-hmm. Next photo, please. This is recent. This is the opening of the PBA 45th season.
Yeah.
And look at the characters. Orly Castelo, who just, I think, celebrated his birthday. And then si Turing Valenzona. Yoyong Martires.
Oh, yeah, that's another good guy. That's another good guy I want on my team because that guy, he really can blow the daylights out of everybody else.
And si Gil Cortez, who also played for Honda in 1978.
Yeah.
Yes. He was watching. He was one of the first. He was one of the first to comment.
That's Yoyong Martires.
Yep. Yoyong. So these guys, well, 4 of these guys have been our guests already. Gil Cortez, Yoyong, Turing, and Seb Sarmenta. And now, ikaw, si Ma'am Nikki has been with us. So si Orly na lang, hindi pa natin nag-guest dito sa ating show. But yeah, here. So this was like a parang for you came back, no? After many years of not siguro watching the games or whatever, they invited you back for this occasion, the opening ceremonies.
I was back sometime a few years before this.
Okay.
There was another then.
No, and apparently
whenever they invite me and I'm available, I will always go back to the PBA. I have very, very best memories, of those years.
And you know the players, huh? Galing. When we were talking, you know the players.
Yeah, I learned my basics in basketball even from Ed Ocampo.
Mm-hmm.
I remember we'd be in the peninsula until 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning in the lobby, and he was teaching me about, we had peanuts that were either open or closed for the dark and the light team, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so he would tell me the placement, the place, the this and that to help me understand all these things. I learned from them. And Tito Ray, remember Tito Ray?
Yeah,
of course.
Mm-hmm.
Tito Ray restaurant offering Bautista in front of Don Bosco, somewhere there.
They used to talk about Tito Ray on the PBA coverage, but after a while they'd start talking about Doña Nenas naman. After Tito Ray, naging Doña Nenas naman yung
Oh, yeah.
yung
Doña Nenas.
advertise.
Hindi ko na inabutan yung Doña Nenas. Nandun ako, Tito Ray.
Oo nga, mga 85, 86 na siguro yung Doña Nenas na yun. I remember there were commercials about that.
86
After my father passed, it was very, very hard for me to go back to the PBA basketball. It took quite some time before, yeah. That's why I know very few of them from after that period. Except, like Alvin Patrimonio, because I still see him, after that time. So,
but you're pretty much in touch with a lot of sports pa rin until now because of your school nga and all of that. So even basketball, you know about that. When you were, I mean, we're not going to talk much about it, but during your stint as a legislator, did you ever head any of the sports committees or whatever? Or
I think Freddie Webb headed it.
Okay.
I think it was Freddie Webb. Yeah. And at that time, the scope of work was so much broader. I could not confine it just to sports.
Yeah.
In fact, the time when I was involved in sports, I was also involved in art. It's just that you become more visible because this is a more this takes a lot more coverage than art, in the country. So, yeah.
Okay. Well, that's great. No, so well, at least you're still involved, and we know that your school has been breeding, potential medalists for our country in different disciplines, and that's something to brag about right now. Ang ganda ng kwentuhan natin of that. We're about to end, of course. So we've been keeping you already for almost 2 hours, ma'am. But I have this thing called X's or O's. I'm gonna give you a bunch of choices. You just tell me which you choose. You don't have to tell me why. You just choose when I give you the choice. We'll go through it right now, ma'am. Okay? X's or O's. Jesse Soliano or Luke Bakula?
I'll make a choice. Jesse Soliano.
Jesse Soliano. Okay. Ed, Tito Eduque or Big Boy Reynoso?
How far? Tito Eduque.
Mga coaches kasi. Tito Eduque. Okay. How about the imports? I don't know if you remember them. Paul Marigny or Jeff Randall?
I don't remember them.
Okay. How about June Papa or Jake Rojas?
Oh, what a choice. Both.
Okay. Pwede yun. We allow that. Epoy Alcantara or Jenny Lucindo?
Jenny Lucindo.
Okay, Lucindo. Manny Chan or Sunny Ko?
I don't know.
Don't remember them. Okay.
No memory.
Danny Florencio or Estoy Estrada?
Hirap naman.
That's what it's all about. That's what the X's or O's is all about. It's choices, tough choices.
Tough choices. Estoy Estrada or Danny Florencio? Depends on what. Danny Florencio.
Danny Florencio, okay. How about imports?
Mali yung choices ko.
I don't know if you remember them. Larry Fogel or Don Robinson?
Larry Fogel.
Okay.
How about Red Vicente, Enteng Vicente or Benji Poblete?
Oh my God. Vicente or Poblete? That's tough. They're both the same. Same.
So equal, tied ball game. Okay. Torrente or Balani?
I think Torrente.
Okay.
Torrente. Okay. Nonoy Dalman or Ponky Alolor?
The same.
Same.
The same.
Okay.
I'm thinking of good shots and good plays and headaches equal time.
Equal. Ponky, sakit sa ulo.
Huwag ka magalit sa akin.
How about this one? How about this one? Crispa or Toyota?
I think Toyota.
Toyota. Okay.
Mhm.
Jaworski or Fernandez?
Teka, kampi na ako. Ha?
Oh. Jaworski or Fernandez?
Hard naman to make these kinds of decisions. Oh my God.
It was hard to come up with the choices as well for us.
No, but but they're different. Huh? I mean, they're different, but they're the same. I mean,
Yeah.
iba eh. You cannot compare apples and oranges. Both the same.
So both. Okay. This one, I think I know your answer for this. Prieto or Yenko?
I had a closer relationship with Leo Prieto. Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
I have very little experience with Commissioner Yanko. I mean,
Politics or sports?
do I want to get into politics or sports? Neither.
Neither pala. Ex pareho.
I'm just a spectator now. I'm just a spectator watching from the sidelines. Sometimes under the goal and sometimes in the technical committee's desk.
Yeah. And fighting with referees also after the game. Yeah. And then the last one, this is the most important one, no? For all our guests. This next question, we ask it to all our guests. And this is the most important one. Vilma or Nora?
Oh my gosh. Vilma or Nora?
And then Vilma is leading in the tally, no? So far, we've asked about 15 of our guests. Vilma's leading over Nora.
But it's, again, like it's apples and oranges. They're not the same. They're different. Even the characterization is different, but they all have very strong points. Yeah.
But so you're neither a Noranyan or a Vilmanian.
No, I think I'm a fan of both, actually.
Fan of both. Okay. It's a tie. Okay. That's the third or fourth tie we've had. Si Gil Cortez. It was a tie also for Gil Cortez, I think. That time. Okay, that's it. That's X's or O's. That's X's or O's for this episode. Jay, you have something?
Yeah, I'm asking this for Noel, no? Ma'am, you've been in the limelight for 40 plus years already, no? Whether as a sports personality or as a politician. How would you like people to remember you, first as a sports person or a sportswoman, and second as a politician? What kind of legacy would you like to leave behind for them or for us?
Sports
and politics.
Well, as legacy, I went all out for sports.
Mm-hmm.
I went all out for sports. Rightly or wrongly, I did. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
As a politician,
Yes, ma'am.
I never held back. As a politician, I said what I wanted to say and paid the price for it. And it's all right. It's all right. It would have been worse if I held back, because then I would have regretted it for the rest of my life. So I said what I wanted to say, and I only said what was true. What was true. That's all. You know, it didn't matter who got hit.
Yeah.
So because it was all true. And I think the evidence is that nobody came back and sued me for libel, or nobody came back to call me a liar. They can call me all kinds of names, except they never could call me a liar.
Yeah. Mom, are you considering going back to politics?
No.
Not anymore. Okay.
No.
That was easy to answer.
Especially nowadays.
Unless lightning strikes me like 3 inches away, maybe.
Sid, ikaw naman.
Well, my question usually for our guests is, who were your 5, favorite players back then? If you could make a list.
I can't choose 5.
Well, kasi starting 5 eh. Parang ganun. It's like,
Like
if you're gonna form it.
mythical team.
Yes.
Oh my God. That will exclude so many other people.
Siguro the first 5 that come to your mind, those must be the ones that stand
No,
out
not
to you.
necessarily. Not necessarily. No, because to come up with the first 5, I think you really have to think a lot. Well, I think Juan Fernandez will always be my first five.
Mm-hmm.
One of the first five.
Same.
Um,
Okay.
I don't even know if they can blend together because of the age group. I'm just thinking of five players.
Galing ni
I
Ma'am. He's actually thinking about blending.
don't know if
Pang
they're in the
manager
same
talaga. Pang
Oo
team
nga eh.
manager talaga.
the same age group, di ba? Mahirap yun eh. Well, I'd say Martirez,
Okay.
um, maybe I don't know, Atoy
Okay.
Okay, that's free.
well, how many more? I need more guards, right?
Just
Yeah,
two
two
more.
more.
I already have how many? I already have two tall guys, one shooter, two shooters, one guy. What else? Hmm,
Well, among your former players, maybe you'd like to include, aside from
Nina.
Martinez.
aside from who? Oh, Martinez.
Yeah, you mentioned him na eh, pero
The player I like. I like
Or-
Jake Ross. I like Jake Ross.
Rojas. Okay.
Jake
Jake Rojas.
Jake Rojas.
And one more.
One more. Hmm, I don't know if I'm too many tall people already.
So you got
Okay
three
lang.
smalls.
They'll
One pa lang yung
figure it
malaki
out.
mo.
How about Billy Robinson?
There you
Pwede.
go. There you
Pwede.
go.
That's your five right there. Robinson, Fernandez, Martirez, Co, and Rojas.
I don't know. Magulo na yan. Masyadong
Oh.
magulo yan. That's a bad coach. That's a bad coach.
That's pretty solid. That's pretty solid.
Yeah, it
Juan
is.
Fernandez
Solid na yan.
can play multiple positions. So
That's right.
Yeah, they have to, I guess. I mean, kasi five lang eh. You give me
Oo
25.
nga.
I'll do a better job.
Yeah, sige. Pwede yun. Ma'am, you've had such a long career, no, in sports and all of that. You're part of the PBA family. Made a mark. You know, you trailblazed as the first lady owner and manager. Then in politics as well. I'm sure there's a lot of people that who assisted you along the way, maybe helped you out. And I know a lot of your friends are watching this episode because you told them that you were going to be on the show, and they did comment on our page and all of that. So if you have any message or if anyone you'd like to acknowledge or to thank, or you just want to greet them right now, now's the time, ma'am.
Well, before I greet the ones that I still am in touch with,
Mhm.
I'd like to mention a number. I mean, to say, that doesn't have to go by name, no, but quite a number have passed on in the world of basketball, in the world of sports. You know, the latest one being Susan Papa. But all throughout my involvement in sports, friends and relatives have somehow, come in and appreciated the kind of work that we do. Now that I'm involved in school, our coaches, for example, I mentioned already, Lenski Bahar, who's our athletic director, and Coach Nak Dagdagan, who's in charge of Taekwondo, and all the other sports coaches that have come in and come and gone in the school. I give them a lot of credit. My friends who have been very supportive, I appreciate that a lot. Quite a number have, in one manner, shape, or form, contributed financially so that our school programs can move on.
Mhm.
And some of whom, those that I can, easily run off right now, people like Joe Marie Chan, for example. I appreciate the kind of help that he has given our school for sports. Big Boy C, by the way, condolences to his family because he's
Yes,
just
yes.
lost his daughter. There's Johnny Hernandez of Victory Liner. There's Jerry's Grill, Jerome Mo of Jerry's Grill, who's been our partner in basketball. Remember, our school, in our school we have 5 basketball teams. For a small school like ours, because we have the seniors, the college team, we have the high school senior team, the high school junior team, the aspirants team, and the midgets and the mini midgets. you know. So you can imagine. And on our own, we could not really have survived if not for the help of these very well-meaning people. I also appreciate the cooperation of everyone who is in the sports world who acknowledges what we're doing. As far as swimming is concerned, we've also had Susan and her brother Alex Papa, who helped us a lot too in all these endeavors. And let me see. Yeah, I mean, off the cuff, I didn't make a list, like that. But I know that everyone out there has been at some point in time supportive of us.
Mhm.
We wouldn't have been this successful then and now if not for the fans out there who rallied behind our players, our coaches, everyone, the trainers, etc. My father, my father's friends, they're all there, and I will not forget.
Galing. Great. Wow. What an episode this is. No? Siyempre, a first nga for AOB, and we'd like to thank Senator Nikki Coseteng for joining us for this. It's International Women's Month. Bago matapos yan, at least we were able to show some women empowerment. Let's look at the shirt. Sid, come on. Show your shirt to the screen.
Yeah.
We men support women.
So that means that every day is Women's Day, not just March.
All the time for us.
365 days a year.
That's right.
That's right. Diba? So may importansya yan.
Yeah, I hope everyone has a restful and a meaningful Holy Week ahead. I hope that this pandemic is not going to separate us into different worlds. I mean, the beyond and here. Stay safe for everyone. As I always say, we're all not in the same boat, but we're all in the same tsunami. So we really just all have to watch out for ourselves. Nobody's going to watch out for us. Don't count on your barangay or government or whatever. You're really on your own henceforth. And it's not going to get any easier, and it's not going to get better before it gets worse. I mean, or it will get worse before it gets better.
That's right.
I thank you for inviting me, for coming, for
Thank
being
you for-
interviewed.
Our pleasure, definitely. Thank you so much for accepting our invitation. It's always
Yeah,
nice to
very
look
much.
back. Always nice to look back. So galing galing ng episode nito. Episode 74 ng AOB is now in the books, as Senator Coseteng said. Have a restful Holy Week, everybody. And I know we're supposed to stay home anyway, so you'll have a peaceful and restful next few days. Hopefully, wag masyado mag-lockdown, walang panic buying, whatever na mangyayari rito. But sana makapagpahinga lahat. And then AOB will also be taking a break next Saturday, Black Saturday. We will take a break. Wala munang episode ng AOB. We'll be back with episode 75 the week after that. And we will announce who our guest will be on our Facebook page as usual. Keep following us. We'd like to thank all our followers. We love you. And you're always supportive of our episodes. Of course, I'm sure you had fun today with Senator Coseteng. On behalf of Jay Mercado, pinch hitting for Noel Zarate, our condolences, by the way, to Noel Zarate's family. His mother-in-law passed away the other day. That's why he's not with us today. Thanks, Jay, for pinch hitting once again. Sid Ventura, ang aking partner. Once again, ako naman po si Charlie Cuna. Para sa AOB, nagpapasalamat sa inyong lahat, sa inyong pagtangkilik at lagi panunood sa aming programa, Munting Kwentuhan tungkol sa basketball at iba pa dito sa AOB. Thank you, Senator Coseteng. We are now signing off. AOB 74 is in the books. Ingat po kayong lahat, and God bless you all this Holy Week. Bye, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Bye.